Welcome, readers, to another episode of the Bougie Book Pod. I am Tara,
I'm Kira.
and this is where we get together and yap about our most recent reads and have fun doing so in the hopes of creating some sort of virtual book club where we can have some great discussions. And speaking of that, I'm holding off. I didn't tell you. So I was in Barnes and Noble this weekend.
Yeah.
And I was looking for more books, obviously. And my brother met me there, and he texted me while I was there, and he said, "Where are you?" And I said, "Oh, I'm in mystery." He's like, "Well, come back to fantasy." I said, "I'm in mystery, and I'm picking up books. I'll be there when I'm ready." And he said, "Get over here." So I went over to peek over to where he is. He's like, "I want to show you something." And I was thinking, "Oh, he found a cool book."
Yeah.
So I go look, and there's two women standing there, and they're like, "Hi, are you Tara?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Your brother tells us you have a podcast, and we wanted to talk to you about it."
Oh my God.
Yes. So there's these two women, Madeline and Stephanie.
Okay.
Stephanie worked at Barnes and Noble, or works there, and Madeline had just finished reading all of the ACOTAR series. And she had in her hand about 3 or 4 of the Throne of Glass series. And she was getting ready to start. And I told her I hadn't started that yet because I had just read Fourth Wing and I'm waiting on the next 2 books from Blackwell's. And she was just saying that she's nervous to get into Throne of Glass. And we were just talking about the ACOTAR series and how much we love it. But she had recommended this book to me, which is out of my wheelhouse.
I was going to say, I've seen this online, and I didn't think this was in my realm of books.
I wouldn't have picked it up at all, except for she was really sweet and said she was going to listen to the podcast. But so it's a romance book, but it's called Things We Never Got Over, and apparently it's super popular by Lucy Score. There's 3 of these books. And she said that when she started ACOTAR, the Night Court group reminded her of the friend group in here in terms of just the way they interacted with each other. And she said that she thinks that I would like it. So I just started it. So far, I mean, it's not fantasy or mystery or anything.
It's a thick romance.
It is a thick romance, and nothing has happened yet. But it is a lot of, I'm only on page 92.
Yeah.
But so far, I can see where the characters are interesting. I'm almost picturing a TV show, like Friends or something. So we'll see where it goes. I have an idea of who's going to start smashing who. But I just wanted to say, Madeline, I am reading it if you are watching, and we appreciate you. And that was fun.
That's so funny. Your brother's going around
I know. Basically, I was like, how did that happen? He said that he was manga is right next to fantasy.
Yeah.
And he said he overheard them talking about ACOTAR. And he was like, I'm pretty sure those are the books that my sister is always talking about. So he's like, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but my sister has a podcast and she's really horrible at advertising it. So I thought maybe you'd want to talk to her. So I was embarrassed at first, but then it just reminded me how fun it is to talk to people about books, because then we just start yapping about theories and the characters and how much we liked it, and how she had never really read fantasy before, and now she's full thrown into it. So it was really fun, and it just reminded me of why I want to do this and how I hope people start commenting more and interacting, because I'd love to hear their theories and their take on things. To have more of a discussion.
Interesting. Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah. So I'm going to read a romance book. We'll see how it goes. I'll keep you updated.
I'm at the end of Iron Flame. It's hiding right there. I know.
I'm still waiting. I keep checking my tracking, and I'm like, where did it go? Okay. Well.
Anyway. So we're reading right now, I guess. New segment.
Yes. Well, yeah. So I just thought that'd be fun to add. But we are here today, and I think you have it.
I do.
To go over Verity by Colleen Hoover.
Which is interesting because people either love or hate Colleen Hoover.
Yes.
And I also think the people that hate Colleen Hoover are the people that only like Verity, if they do read her.
Probably.
I think that falls into a category. I also saw a thing that she's not writing anymore. I don't know if that was a TikTok rumor.
I haven't seen that, but I know she She's back on Instagram. She was off Instagram for a while, but that's really all because of it all ended with us kind of controversy, which we're not going to get into.
But anywho, we're discussing this one because,
yes.
Well, this is, I don't know.
Our wheelhouse.
This is what we like.
Yeah. So, Verity by Colleen Hoover. So we have, what if the truth you uncover isn't just shocking, it's deadly? Verity by Colleen Hoover is another one of our beloved psychological thrillers, but with a dark, unsettling atmosphere that blends mystery, romance, and absolute horror. An apparent shift from her usual and expected romance-driven stories, Verity stands out from all of Hoover's other work. The story follows Lowen Ashley, a struggling writer who somehow becomes involved with the family of a successful author, Verity Crawford. Lowen is tasked with secretly completing the much-anticipated work of Verity as she lives in a vegetated state that no one but her family and editors know about. Already a strange start to a new job, Lowen begins not only the difficult task of copying another author's words and style, but finds herself unraveling the mystery of who this woman really was. So let's go through our cast of characters, our players.
Which is really limited in this story.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I went back and thought about it, I was like, wow, we actually don't know a lot of people in this one. So we have Lowen, obviously, she's our protagonist. She is the up-and-coming writer who happens to strike this deal. And she agrees to do this deal. And she's kind of unraveling the mystery that is this Crawford family. Then we obviously have Verity. You may think she's not an important role, seeing as though she's in a vegetative state, but first off, the book's named after her, so obviously not. And she is in this coma after this accident. She's upstairs in the house, very successful author, and it's her family, the Crawford family. She also has this autobiography that becomes super important. So then we got Jeremy, her husband, who is interesting. He's the one that hires Lowen. It's like him going out and doing it. And Jeremy and Lowen become involved with Verity upstairs. Anywho, he's conflicted between having obviously his wife still upstairs, but then Lowen right in front of him, all these weird things. Then we got Crew, who is their son, and he's the only living child.
He's like 5, 6?
Yeah, I think so. That's what I got. He's like little, but he is like picking up on things and communicates. I don't know. It's hard to describe. Which he's actually more important than normal like children in stories, I would say. And then you have their twins, who I don't know how to pronounce the first one.
Chasten?
That's how I was going to say it too. Chasten and Harper. And they're important to the story, even though they are not necessarily there, because they both have passed. But the mystery of their passing kind of gets intertwined with this whole story.
Yeah.
And that's really much it. I mean, there's some other like small side people, but no one really worth mentioning, honestly. So yeah, let's talk about the plot to start with, and I think one of the most interesting opening scenes I've ever started in a book.
Well, it's like full stop. It's bam, you're into trouble.
Like,
so to speak.
There are good lines. There's definitely good one-liners people start with, but this is a whole, like, if this is how this starts, where are we going?
Where are we going?
Is how I felt. Like, I was like, so anyway, Lowen's on her way. She's in New York, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I pictured New York this whole time.
Yeah.
She's on her way to this business interview opportunity that happens to be Verity's book, the series, and she's going to cross the street. She's going to cross the street, and a pedestrian gets hit, and she just immediately gets splattered with all their blood. And I just was kind of taken aback by that.
Yeah.
And And then I was like, okay, so I need to buckle up for this one.
Yeah, exactly. She's got blood all over her face, all over her shirt. She goes into like a little coffee shop or something. And I mean, you just imagine, but it's also funny because it's New York. So people really don't pay her too much mind. Because that's how us New Yorkers are. But yeah, it's definitely like if you think like she's having a shitty experience, it just gave me a sense that things were already shitty for her, and this is just like compounded it, and now it's going to get even shittier.
Oh yeah, it was one of those things where it was like you have a bad day and something just like is the icing on the cake, and you're like, okay, but hers was just like to an extreme level.
Yes.
Is how I also got that. She's like, okay. But then she goes and she meets Jeremy, and the offer comes about of finishing these books, which she's just taken aback because Verity is such a well-known author.
Yeah.
And so she accepts, even though it's kind of a weird deal because then she is offered to live in the home.
And someone is trying to break into Kira's house.
I think I left the side gate open and the wind picked up. Startled me. And this is a little bit of a jumpy book too at some point. Like, so I was like, oh my god. Anywho, so not only is this like a weird offer to begin with, hey, finish this woman's series.
Yeah, because it's a very popular series. The public don't know that Verity is in a vegetated state and they want to finish the series. So her editors and her family are thinking if we can get like a ghost writer to complete it for her, we could just wrap it up and then like we can break the news to everybody, but at least people will think Verity wrote it.
So it's like weird to start with, and then it's also like, but then also come live with us.
Yeah. Well, because, and then like their reasoning for that is come go through her things, kind of get a sense of what her process is like, read her other books, see if we can find some stuff that she was writing about the characters. And so
it already it's
weird, but Lowen is struggling financially. There's something that went on with her mom. I think her mom recently passed. It seems like she was taking care of her. It sounds like she's a great writer, but she doesn't seem to have that confidence in herself, and her sales aren't that great. So
it's just another one of those characters because like we just touched on the handmaid. No,
the
housemaid.
The handmaid. You're confusing life with reality.
The housemaid, and like she has no like it's just the same type of.
Yeah, you find yourself like I just got to do it.
Yep, it seems weird, but I'm gonna do it. So then she moves in.
And immediately the house feels off, kind of creepy to her.
I picture a very dark house. I don't know why.
I picture just like, stuffy's not the right word, but like that sense of like things have happened here and it's not happy. It's not a happy home. Because
there's not like a lot of life in the house. Happy life. Yeah. It gave off a weird vibe.
Plus she knows that his wife, Verity, who she's supposed to be writing for, is just upstairs in a bed. Can't speak, can't walk. It's just weird.
You want to continue on?
Sure.
Take this chunk.
So Verity is in her vegetable state, and I think there's even one scene that stood out to me is like one night she's sleeping and she hears like this creaking upstairs, and she's thinking, oh my god, what is he doing to her? Like, like that he's still like sleeping with her even though she's in that state. And then I think he's like in the hallway or whatever. He's like, yeah, it's her hospital bed. It moves every few hours or whatever. And I was like, oh my god, it was just like a creepy sound and creepy thoughts. So that's the energy in the house that things are going on. The little boy Crew is there, and he seems to, like, Lowen thinks at first that he must be traumatized by everything, but he also seems kind of like everything is fine. And eventually he kind of lets some information slip. Like he makes some moves and some comments that make you feel like he's talking to his mom as in a way that she's talking back. So now immediately Lowen starts coming up with all these different ideas.
And he's young enough though that you're kind of like, oh, he's just messing around.
But he's also old enough where you're like, well, wait a minute, maybe she is responding.
He's in that like perfect age where you're questioning.
Where you're just not quite sure. And then Lowen finds herself thinking, am I thinking these things because I'm just creeping myself out, or is something actually happening here? So she goes into the task of trying to figure out and get in the headspace of Verity to write this book. She goes through her stuff and she stumbles upon an autobiography that Verity wrote before her car accident that put her in this vegetated state. And she thinks, well, this will be a perfect thing. I get to know her. So she starts to read it and quickly uncovers like a disturbing side of Verity that she probably nobody wanted to know. It describes Verity's like twisted, manipulative behavior, disturbing views on motherhood, the tragic events around her daughter's death. And as Lowen continues to read, she starts to hate Verity, but then she can't stop reading. But then she feels conflicted because she's learning things and she wonders, does Jeremy know about this? And she starts swearing that she saw Verity move out of the corner of her eye. She's looking out the window one day and she sees, what's his name?
Crew.
I almost like Crawford. Crew waving up at the window where like his mom's room is. And so it's like all these things are happening and she's starting to think, what if she's not a vegetable? What is the end game here and why am I here?
Which you don't think she would have, like, she wouldn't have come up to that conclusion had she not read the manuscript because
never. She just would have been like creeped out by it and then just did her job. And meanwhile, she is doing her job. She is writing this book. But then she keeps reading about Verity, and then through reading about Verity, she's starting to have like these emotional attachment to Jeremy, because in the autobiography, Verity describes how she met her husband. She describes their sexual endeavors. And so, of course, now Lowen is, attracted by that. But then she's thinking, oh my God, did he know that she was like this way, that she spoke about him in this way? And so now she's starting to feel bad for him. But then she's feeling concerned if like this is all some sort of sick joke. So she's got these romantic feelings for him, which complicates things because Verity is alive, even though she's in a coma. And so, am I doing something wrong? Should I continue these feelings? What is happening here? It's very, I would say, you know how like in Housemaid, I was annoyed by the situation going to the husband. In this one, I wasn't so much annoyed as I was like, this is just weird. Like, just stay away.
It was more disturbing.
Yes.
Than like, oh, you shouldn't do that. It was like, you kind of have something going off in your, like, there's something wrong in your head.
Yes. It was like, I wasn't annoyed by it. I was just more like, well, why?
Yeah. You got something a little loose up in there.
Why would you even consider that? I would be like, let's just get this job done and go home. Yeah. Let's get that, because it was a nice paycheck they were giving her. I'd be like, I'm just going to do this and get the hell out of here.
And especially after you've read all of that and like, there's so much trauma and complications in that family, it seems like, whoa, red flag, I don't want to be involved more than I have to.
Yeah.
But then she's like, just kidding, let me actually dive deeper into this.
Exactly. So in the manuscript or the autobiography, she's learning that basically Verity was like obsessed with her husband and really relished in his attention and only wanted his attention and didn't want his attention on anything else, which of course sounds alarm bells once you have a child, because then they're the ones getting the attention.
Yeah, and she didn't even want the attention on the kids.
She didn't want any attention on that. Like, I don't even think she thought she was going to get pregnant. And then when she did get pregnant, she wasn't excited about it. And then to find out that it was twins, it was even more of like a burden to her. And so do you want to talk about that?
So it's just so disturbing, and like I didn't read this as a mother. It was still disturbing.
Oh yeah, I read it as a mother, obviously, and it made me want to throw the book.
Yes.
Like, are there people really like this?
Yes. So essentially, she dives into her initial attempts to kill. I was going to say something else, but let's just say how it is. To kill the girls.
Yeah, trigger warning, I guess.
Yeah, it's gruesome. And so Chasten gets a pillow to the face, right? She's trying to suffocate her.
Well, before she even has that.
Oh, yeah. She tries to give herself an at-home abortion.
Yeah, with a
hanger.
A wire hanger.
Yes, which is interesting because then I can't remember what twin ends up having a scar, but one of them has a scar that, of course, is like, oh, was that the hanger?
Yeah.
It was a little messed up.
But yeah, and then her descriptions of being a mom and her absolute hatred for these babies.
She just knows that she was not supposed to be a mother.
Oh, I'm hitting my mic. It hurts so bad reading that because you hear a baby crying, you're going to be hearing a baby crying a lot. And it really it gut punches you sometimes, as much as it can get annoying at a certain point. It really is sometimes it just feels like your heart hurts. And so the idea of hearing that cry and then seeing someone be like, ugh, and try to put a pillow over their baby.
Which is interesting because she says she stops. But I don't know. Yeah. Part of me was curious about her actually stopping because she doesn't love them. She turns off the monitor. She just wants to sleep. Like, she doesn't care.
She just lets them scream.
And you just think about nowadays the lengths people go to monitor their baby while they're sleeping, and she's just like, I don't care.
I know. Well, it's funny though, because some people will say you have to let them scream at a certain point.
Yeah.
I had a doctor tell me that, and I was like, okay. And then I never followed up with that because I couldn't. But this is to another level. I know there are parents out there who do get to a point where in order for them to sleep through the night, we have to let them scream. And if that's your bag, that's fine. Not for me. But this was in a cruel way of just let them scream all day long until their dad gets home.
So then it gets to the point where we have the lake scene. It's a lake, right? I'm not making that up. It's a body of water. I believe it's a lake or a pond.
Before that.
Oh,
I forget which one is the... Hold up. Okay, so there are two. Chasten and Harper. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. She ends up loving
Harper, right?
Oh, I forget. I thought it was Chasten. Oh, man. Hold up. I think I have it written down. This is terrible.
I don't do well with twins. I get them very confused in real and fake life.
Shoot. Okay, hold up. I have it written down somewhere. So she ends up somehow... I thought it was Chasten.
Maybe it is Chasten.
She ends up developing feelings or a kinship to one of them. I think it's Chasten.
Now that you're saying it, that does sound actually right because of the irony of
that she survived, whatever.
Yes.
So she ends up getting this feeling for Chasten, who... Okay, no.
They have twins.
Harper. She feels for Harper.
Okay.
Who has a peanut allergy.
Yes.
So she favors Harper. And then as Chasten is getting older, it appears as if she may be autistic. She doesn't speak as much socially. She's different from Harper. And so Verity describes in her book that she just really could care less for this one. Yeah. And she's always like, this one is going to be the end of my child. And somehow have a problem. And then it causes a wedge between her and her husband because he notices that she doesn't talk to Harper. She doesn't do things with her. She's always talking about Chasten. And then what ends up happening is Chasten goes to a sleepover with Harper at a friend's house and somehow gets her hands on something that has peanuts in it.
Yes.
And dies from her allergic reaction. And so... that's their first tragedy. And Verity gets it in her head that it was Harper's fault.
Yeah.
Or if it even wasn't, it should have been Harper.
Yeah.
But, the father is so devastated and she complains that he won't sleep with her. And it's just that's what's on your mind after losing a child. She gets pregnant with the little one. So now they've got the little boy. I think that happens before Harper dies. But then we get to the lake.
Then we get to the lake scene where they're out in a rowboat, correct?
Yeah, like a little...
Just a little dinghy.
A little dinghy.
And it happens that she, the daughter, ends up in the water. And Verity just watches.
Yeah.
Doesn't react, doesn't have any instinct. And she, correct me if I'm wrong, she's the one out there. And she doesn't react. She just continues to watch. And then I think it's too little too late before Jeremy steps in, correct?
Yeah, she tells her son to hold his breath before they go under.
Yes.
Like she stages the whole accident.
Yeah.
And she gets the son to the shore or whatever. And he's screaming, you have to get her, you have to get her. And she waits a few minutes or a beat or whatever. And then she slowly... I
can't remember how old Crew is at this point.
I think he's only 4.
Okay, yeah.
He's little. And 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I think 4. And she goes to attempt to look for her. And in the manuscript she was writing, she was afraid that she was going to find her and pull her up and save her. But she can't find her. And it turns out that she had gotten tangled in some sort of net or something that they lost. And so then they lose another daughter.
Yeah. But she has that hesitation, which is interesting because why Crew? Why? I don't understand why she decided oh, you're okay. I know she just resents the other one for the death of the first one. The other one was her favorite, and then it's Crew comes along and it's okay, whatever.
I wonder if it's because he's a boy.
Yeah.
And girls tend to naturally get daddy's attention, right? And boys get mommy's attention, even though she's doesn't seem very maternal. But I wonder if that's what it is, if she thinks that he's not going to take that much attention away from her husband.
Because in a weird way, it feels as though she does love Crew.
Yes.
In a, not an overly maternal way, but she does actually love him.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
So obviously at this point, Jeremy is just so far gone, losing both the twins, and Verity's time to put my poker face on, I guess, because this is my husband who I'm obsessed with, and I don't want him to think anything. And so she just pretends and is ready to move on, not have twins, get on with her life.
Yeah. And then she says at the very end of her book, something about being upset because it didn't seem like this plan was working. She can't help him grieve. She was kind of hoping that now we'll just be this little family of 3. Let's just move on. And it's not working that way.
Yeah.
And Jeremy had said to her something about why did you tell Crew to hold his breath?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I said that because we were going under, and she tries to play it off, but Jeremy's kind of feeling did you? So she writes in the book that her very last thing is well, maybe I'll just, wrap myself around a tree or something like that. Something with her car.
Yep.
And
she makes that.
She has this car accident, and now she's in this vegetative state. So Lowen has just finished reading all of this. She's been having these moments where she swears to God she saw Verity move.
Yep, she thinks she sees her at the top of the stairs at one point. Crew's doing all the weird things.
She says that her eyes moved at one point to watch her. Crew's doing the weird waving thing, says that mommy said something to him.
But then they also have that health professional that comes in every single day. And so then she was like, how could Verity get past that? How could you fake this? So she's in her head. I mean, it is confusing because it's yes, you have a health professional. You think that they would pick up on these things. It's just a lot of weird things.
Or even just the dedication it would take someone to pretend to be a vegetable.
When I'm mad at someone, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to talk to them. That lasts like 5 minutes.
I know.
I can't even imagine.
I know. Well, my way is like I won't talk to them, but I'm gonna make noises and move around until they talk to me. But yeah,
imagine like getting an itch and you're just like, I can't move. I can't. Like
I couldn't.
Some people are very mentally strong, and in a weird way, I think Verity is very so messed up, but she's so mentally strong in a weird way.
Be able to pull this off. So, spoiler: she's not a vegetable.
No, she's not.
She's not. Lowen is not losing her mind. She has been seeing this. However, despite seeing all of these things and feeling and being suspicious, she does sleep with Jeremy.
Yeah, and
they started
one of the very disturbing, like, there are some scenes that I can recall from like fantasy and like the romance, like, oh, they finally like get together, things like that. And this one sits in my head for the wrong reason.
Is it because of the?
It's because of the teeth in the headboard that match where Verity's teeth were. I just can't. It just.
Yeah. Again, I went from being like annoyed and grossed out by the housemaid, but then this one, you can't even get angry. You're just like, what? What is this? I was like, Colleen Hoover is twisted.
I didn't like that.
She is twisted. So yeah, in the biography, she talks about having sex with her husband and biting the headboard and leaving these teeth marks and stuff. And Lowen sees that, and she just wants to kind of add hers, and it's just,
It's what. Here's my thing. You see that, immediately done.
Yeah, I'm immediately like, I'm turned off. This isn't working for me.
But it's like, it makes me think of like when you track someone's like height. It's like, oh, let me add mine.
I was here.
I don't like that. Or like carving your initials into a tree.
Yeah, it's icky. On the one hand, you feel bad for this Jeremy guy because you're thinking, oh wow, like he had like a crazy ass wife and he's just lonely and probably craving a normal person. So you get that, and she's around his age, and I'm sure she's beautiful, but it's just not the time, man.
It's not the time, it's not the place, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's not the time, it's not the place. It's like, I'm not married, but if I was and something happened to me, I would be appreciative of being taken care of. But also, like, if you want to move on in that capacity, maybe just put me in a home or something. Don't do it while I'm there. You know, it's just.
And it makes me think that, like, so Verity is, like, if there's a scale of, like, most messed up to least messed up in this book, like, Crue's at the bottom, poor baby, he can't help it. Verity's at the top.
Tippy,
Lowen is above the halfway mark. I'm going to give her that. But Jeremy is not far behind her.
No, I think they're equal.
It's just, it's giving, like, you should have gone to therapy a long time ago. You need to still be in therapy, and, like, I don't know. It's just messed up for me.
Well, all of these things start to make a little bit of sense when you get to the end. In terms of, like, when you're asking yourself, really, like, why would he do that? Why would he be okay with that? Because then you start to wonder, oh. So what ends up happening is, I don't know if you want to take it. So Lowen is horrified. She feels the need to tell him, but then also she is convinced that she's awake and something is happening and we need to, like, deal with it. And so she gives him the manuscript. I forget exactly what happened, that she was like, okay, you got to hear this.
Which the whole time, all I'm thinking of, and, like, I know when people die, like, some people, I mean, she's not dead, but like, whatever. They don't want to go through the things. But it's just so interesting to me that manuscript, that autobiography, was sitting in that house. And like, Jeremy was like, oh, this is where she works, this is all the stuff, come live with us, blah blah blah. Like, you didn't go through that stuff. You didn't find it before. I don't know, maybe I'm nosy.
Yeah, well,
maybe I'm sentimental. I like going through things. I don't know.
Same. And then you would think, I mean, I know it's not his job to do the writing, but if he's going to hire somebody, I think I would have started collecting things for that person and be like, go through this. Because I don't think I'd want them in my home and be like, just go through everything.
Yeah.
I would have like, this is what I found.
For this exact reason. Yes. What if you discover maybe not an autobiography, but a diary?
Yeah, or like, something that I don't need other people knowing about my wife.
Yes.
So she gives it to him. He doesn't have it for very long.
No.
Which makes me think he didn't read it, which makes me think he already read it.
Agreed.
And she hears him going into Verity's room, and basically he's like, if you're lying, you need to tell me now. I'm going to call the cops. I have the manuscript. Is this all bullshit, whatever? And she doesn't move. Then he says something again. And finally, like, she's like, I'm sorry. It was me all along. It's just like, and Lowen is like, holy shit, I was right. And Jeremy snaps.
Yeah.
And he starts strangling her. And what does Lowen say? She stops him because she's like, you can't murder her. But she says, you can't murder her because then people will know. You need to make it look like an accident.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sorry? What did you say? So like,
and this is where they went like a little higher.
And like, Lowen is getting a little bit higher now. Because it's like, you're okay with him murdering her? Granted, everything if that is true, everything in this autobiography, horrible woman. Horrible.
Yeah.
But like,
may or may not have unintentional. Yeah, like, so
I don't know. Like, we don't know. And even in that moment, you don't know. But I really think in my heart of hearts that I would not be capable of killing someone. Now, maybe if they had killed my child, probably. But I don't know. I just feel like for her to immediately be like, we need to make it look like a medical accident. She had been thinking about this.
Yeah.
She had to have been.
Oh, yeah.
Had to have been thinking about a way to get rid of Verity. For her to come up with that. Write that in there.
Which you think.
And she knew exactly how to make it look like a medical emergency.
And you think about it in a messed up way, but like, Verity's got to be so weak too. Like, she's getting out of her bed, like, every once in a while you have those moments. Like, she's got to be so weak. All they do is like move her limbs around.
Yeah, and she's not like she can get midnight snacks when everybody's in bed because then they'll know.
Yeah.
So they have her, he strangles her, but in such a way where then she starts throwing up.
Yeah.
But she like passed out. And so she basically chokes on her own vomit.
Yes. So they can't detect the fancy term for suffocation that I can't think of.
Asphyxiation?
Yes. And there's no like marks on her. It's like,
and I'm just like, that is just a little too calculated.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She had been thinking about this. I think she had already been planning, if we were to get rid of Verity, how would we do it?
Yeah.
So they stage her death as in a medical event. And I guess they get to live happily ever after, which is almost just really, it's so weird. So then it ends with 7 months later.
Yep.
Lowen is pregnant.
So wherever like Lowen is on the scale, Jeremy is right there. And I think maybe like all three of them meet together because you can't go through that and just I mean, there are so many characters that do. There are so many characters that just, they do crazy shit together and then they stay together and they're just like, oh, we're going to be having family. And then there's poor Crew down here who's just like,
wow, now my mom's
like,
dead?
Crew better be in therapy.
Oh,
if someone's in therapy, Crew needs to be in therapy.
Actually, listen, I'm going to say this right now. I'm probably never going to read another Colleen Hoover book again. However, if she made a book about Crew growing up to be a serial killer, I might read it. Because it would make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
He kills women who look like his mother or something. I don't know. He's going to be messed up for life. There's no way. So it's 7 months later. she's pregnant. I don't know if they're married or not. I think they might be. And they're going back to the house to kind of clear it out because they want a brand new, fresh start somewhere else, which, that makes sense. And Lowen finds a letter in the room where Verity used to stay. And she had like this little floorboard that she would cut up and keep Prue's pictures. She kept a knife in there.
And there's a picture of the girls. I'm on the page right now, surprisingly.
Yes, picture of the girls, which that's weird. Why would she keep that with her? And then there's this letter. And you want to talk about the letter?
Yeah. So also, we already know she's like, whatever. It starts by saying, it's a handwritten letter to Jeremy. Fearfully, I begin to read. Like, and then the letter starts with, Dear Jeremy, I hope it's you who finds this letter.
Yeah. Oops.
If it isn't you, I hope it'll get you some up because I have a lot to say. Then you get to the letter, and this is where, and it's, God, a good 310, 13 pages of like this book itself. And this is where she says she always loved her daughters. She never hurt them. Nothing. She didn't do any of that. It just is the exact opposite of the manuscript.
Yeah, and also it's saying, I know you found my manuscript.
Yes.
And I know you think I'm a monster.
Correct.
But this was my way of healing.
And it's her trying to paint this picture of like that wasn't actually me. This is me. And it's just, this is where the debate comes up of the team letter and team manuscript. Because you get to the point where, like, first off, we'll talk about it, but like, I can't even fathom that this person is who she is in the letter. It's a cover-up.
I think so too.
It has to be.
I'm team manuscript.
Yes, me as well.
First of all, it feels manipulative.
Yes.
Second of all, I mean, I'm not a writer of novels. However, I always wanted to be. And I can't say if someone's process is wrong or not. But in this letter, she's claiming that her process to be able to write villains is to be a villain and think like a villain. And that her therapist or editor or somebody suggested to her to take like the most awful things of her own life and write it as if she was the villain in her life.
Yeah.
And that just seems like bullshit to me.
And she paints, I forgot how poorly she actually does paint Jeremy. She makes Jeremy seem like the messed up one. Like, they're all messed up. Yeah. But like, it's Jeremy that actually crashed the car. It's Jeremy that did this. I'll still love you after all of this.
Yeah, she makes it seem like he found the manuscript, flipped out on her,
deleted it. There's like one version that was supposedly deleted off the computer or whatever.
And because she ended it with, I'll wrap myself in my car around the tree, he came up with this plan to knock her out, put her in her car, somehow stage an accident where he's not in the car, and hope that she was going to die. But then when she made it to the hospital, she woke up and she had this feeling he was just going to kill her anyway, so she pretended to be a vegetable.
Yeah. And her concern is like for crew's safety as well.
Yeah, so she's been trying to like stash away, squirrel away some money, go on like the computer, get a fake account.
Yeah.
And her goal was to kidnap her son. And
so she and crew can get out of the situation.
Yeah, and then like, one day I'll come back and maybe we can be a family again if you understand what I did.
Now here's the thing. There is, and this is the original version, I thought about going to Barnes and Noble once because they have, of course, it's golden, I believe, and it has a bonus track.
I know about that.
But I can't remember whose point of view it's written from. My problem was I was so far removed from reading this, I was like, I don't know if I could sit down and read that bonus chapter and like process all this. And then by the time I reread Verity last year, I still didn't go read the bonus chapter. Because I'm not buying a whole book to read a bonus chapter. Like I'm going to sit myself down in Barnes and Noble. So I don't know. I've never actually like even looked online as to what the bonus. I'm sure TikTok someone has screenshotted it or whatever and has it on there.
If you know what the bonus chapter is,
I don't.
Please let us know.
I don't even know whose point of view it's supposed to be in. Like,
okay, and tell us if you are team manuscript or letter after that bonus chapter. If it changes anything for you.
Which I will say, going on TikTok today and looking at team letter and team manuscript, it's like overwhelmingly manuscript.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair because the entire book is very manipulative, right? Yes. We have two unreliable narrators because Lowen...
Because everyone's a 9 out of 10, if not higher, on the crazy scale.
Yeah, Lowen is going through things. I can't trust her judgment, clearly.
I need the bonus chapter to be from Crue's point of view.
I can't, right? Like 10 years later. I can't trust Jeremy, even though he's not a narrator, but I can't trust him because clearly his judgment is off the rails. And Verity, my whole thing is, as a mom, I understand like she's trying to pull this off as like this is a process to be a villain. But as a mom, to write those things, even if it's not true, about your own kids, I cannot fathom it. Especially if two of them died.
Yeah, they have,
So to like sully their names or their deaths and turn it around into a story feels so gross to me that even though she had no intention of putting that autobiography out there to sell, it just feels so nasty that I don't believe her when she says, "Oh no, that was just practice."
Yeah,
because I don't think a good mother would write about her kids like that.
No,
I just don't.
It's one thing to like, and I'm such a superstitious person. I'm a big knock on wood person.
Exactly.
Like to even say something about someone like, I can't even say like, oh, I hope our, something about like our flight being on time without being like, oh my God, I got to be delayed or something. But to say those, like to speak, and it's the,
well, you're putting it in word, like you're putting it out there, like you've printed it.
It's like the manifestation, like you're speaking it into existence. And I know the girls are already dead, but like, my God, that's so terrible. Like, I don't know.
And listen, I have never lost a child, and I don't know what happens to your brain when things like that happen. And I don't want to say that there's a right or a wrong way to grieve. Everybody has their own way of dealing and processing. I just never met anyone who processed this way.
Seems like a way a sociopath would grieve.
Yes, it really does. No, I don't believe her. I think she did those awful things. Maybe she enhanced it or heightened her awfulness for the sake of her practice. But I don't believe the letter. I really don't. It did make me it did give me pause to make me think, oh, did Jeremy actually try to kill her once? Did he read the manuscript already? Because it didn't seem like it was the first time he read it when Lowen gave it to him.
Yeah.
And so you can make two arguments. One, that he did try to kill her, and but the manuscript is real. Or two, he read it and was so distraught by it that he was like, gonna file that away.
Yeah.
Not gonna think about it. Yeah. I don't know.
And here's my thing, also as a mother with the like, saving up for like Crew and I to get out. But like if Jeremy is this twisted and this messed up, and you just like you lay there day after day and like it's a slow process to get you and Crew out, wouldn't you be so nervous about Crew all the time?
Wouldn't you have just told your nurse, I need help?
Also, going back to the nurse, she should not have a license.
No. How did she know she's not a vegetable? Like, I feel like there are clear-cut signs.
No way. Like, I mean, I'm no nurse,
a
but
wonderful, wonderful actress that she's able to like make her eyes lifeless, and
that's the thing to me. Like, don't like
there's no reaction.
All movies and TVs, but don't they like test your eyes, see the reaction, the natural thing? Like, do people in comas sneeze?
Unless this lady was in on it and she was getting a payday.
Very well could be.
I don't know.
I did pull up the cast out of curiosity. We were talking about Verity.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a movie.
Guess who Verity is played by?
I couldn't even wager.
This one surprised me. Anne Hathaway.
Oh. Okay. She's Verity.
She's Verity. It is Dakota Johnson. I got that name right from 50 Shades of Grey. And then Josh Hartnett.
Oh, okay. He's making a comeback. I love to see it. He was a 90s heartthrob.
Yeah, I saw the clip that I saw of him, or when Lowen gets the blood, like he's there or whatever, and I was like, interesting. Do you know Dakota Johnson?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good Lowen. The Anne Hathaway.
I can't picture Anne Hathaway as Verity. I don't know why I was picturing a blonde the whole time.
I don't know what I was picturing. Because you think about it, and it's obviously going to be Anne Hathaway has to play the scenes out from the manuscript.
Ooh,
right? Because otherwise,
yeah,
she's not doing anything except standing at the top of the stairs.
Or so they're gonna lying in her hospital bed.
They're gonna have to play those scenes out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I see Anne Hathaway as, I've never seen her as the villain, and has she ever played a villain?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure she can. She's great. She's not who I was picturing for Verity. I had a completely different woman in my head, not even an actress, just like somebody I made up. But I'm sure she'll be great. She's a great actress.
Yeah, I mean, she's phenomenal. It just, that one really surprised
we're used to her being a good person. But maybe they want us to believe that Verity is a good person, but I don't believe it. I truly don't believe it.
Maybe that is a good casting strategy.
Yeah, because maybe it'll kind of think, oh, well then it's team letter then, because it's Anne Hathaway. But I don't know. I don't believe that at all. Not at all. I will, however, see the movie, but I'm probably going to wait till it's streaming.
Correct. I'm not a big movie theater person to start with.
I am when it's like something I really, truly want to see. Movies like this, streaming has made life just so lazy in terms of, I'll just wait. Or you can, for $20, you can rent it at home instead of paying $40 at a movie theater for 2 people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And that's not what Hollywood wants to hear. But, so,
it's a lot.
I know, it's a lot. So we're both team manuscript. We think Verity is trash and that we cannot believe her.
I think there's the only person not trash is Crew.
I know, poor little baby Crew. However, you never know. Maybe he was helping Mama all along.
Could be.
So this made me think of a couple of other books that you could compare it to.
The Gone Girl that you wrote. That was one I thought of.
Gone Girl for sure.
But Gone Girl to me, like Verity, like this is a good book. I will give her that, like Colleen Hoover, that this is a good book. But like Gone Girl, like will forever hold a, like this one like doesn't
Gone
sit
Girl
at the level of Gone Girl for me.
Yeah, Gone Girl exploded my mind.
Yes. And
I hated that woman. Like I was so mad at what she
that actress though.
So good. She's so good.
She would be a good Verity, but then you would just be picturing her as Gone
Rosamund, right?
Oh my God, I love her.
Phenomenal.
So freaking good.
Yeah,
she is the perfect person to play these roles.
Which is funny because I was just watching Pride and Prejudice.
Dude, I watched it on my flight.
No way!
Yeah, that's why she's so fresh in my head.
I watched it on Sunday.
It's so funny because in Pride and Prejudice, it's very...
She's so sweet and beautiful and shy and so young, Oh, yeah. Oh my God, it's so funny. I was watching it on Sunday. I just felt like I needed some British romance in my life.
Yeah.
And we're so off topic now, but yeah, the whole like you bewitched me, body and soul, sobbing. Girl, have you been crying yet now that you've got pregnant hormones?
Not as much, no.
Okay.
Pride and Prejudice doesn't give me like that. But
it didn't make you cry? Ugh.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
Connection to Pride and Prejudice there, though. Have you seen another one of Jane Austen's that they just put out, and it's Dakota Johnson?
No, I haven't.
She's, oh my God, Persuasion.
Persuasion, yeah, it's on my list.
It's good. Yeah. I mean, you might not like it because it gives a little bit more of a modern twist.
Oh.
Not like they're still like the setting is still old. Okay. It's just the way the production is.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I just thought that's funny because Dakota Johnson is the main character.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, so similar to Gone Girl. But Gone Girl, I think, is another level here.
Gone Girl is another level. And then Gillian Flynn put out another book, please, thank you.
And then like a similar gothic influence in terms of like just like the eeriness of it. I have Rebecca, and I don't think you've read Rebecca. It's been a long time since I read Rebecca. I was in high school, I think. But basically, it's like Rebecca takes place in kind of like I think it's like late 1800s, early 1900s. I could be totally wrong. It's been so long, but there's like this eerie presence of a wife who is passed, but Rebecca has this sense of like she is supposed to. Not Rebecca. Rebecca was the name of the wife. That she's supposed to be like Rebecca, but then you learn about Rebecca that she was not a good person, but she's got like this energy like that's left and stuck in the house. It's a good book, but yeah, it's been so long since I read it, so it kind of made me think of like just like that hanging, lingering first person in someone else's life, and how like whether they are alive or dead or an ex, like that lingers sometimes in a relationship for a person who is not secure, right? So read Rebecca. It was good. Speaking of Rebecca and how I read it in high school, I don't know about you, because you read a lot of like fantasy and crime and stuff like that. When you were younger, did you read fantasy and crime?
Yes. I would read realistic fiction too when I was younger, but yeah, like I grew up on like when dystopian stuff.
Okay.
Like high school was like big the dystopian. I was that kid that like tried to write my own book once when I was little, and it was a crime book, like that type of thing, which I learned I'm not a writer, but yeah.
My first book that I wrote was pictures only in kindergarten, and it was about a princess and a dragon and being saved by a prince. It was all pictures because in kindergarten I could not write, and I had thought from then on I was going to be a writer, and that was all I wanted to do. But I grew up with all the classics, so as I got older I became a snob of like I only read the classics, and that's why I read Rebecca. That's why I did Anna Karenina, which I remember nothing about, and I read like Catcher in the Rye. I just wanted to read all the classics, all like the important ones, all the Jane Austen, and it wasn't until my first year of college where my mom and my brother convinced me to read Harry Potter that all of those classics went out the window.
Yeah. Harry Potter was actually surprisingly COVID for me. But you have
didn't read it until COVID?
No, but you have to think when Harry Potter came out, I was in elementary school.
So was my brother. And that's why I didn't want to read it, because my little brother, who was 6 years younger than me, he was reading these books. And I was like, why would I read a children's book?
I also have the issue sometimes of like not wanting to do something because everyone else is doing it. Okay. My mom did. But I grew up on like Nancy Drew.
Me too. I read every Nancy Drew book. In fact, I tried to write a Nancy Drew book, but I realized I was just writing the same story about a stolen necklace. Yeah, I rewrote it basically.
Nancy Drew's Series of Unfortunate Events was like
also even older than Nancy Drew, and I saw it at one of these bookstores that sold like old and used books, the Bobbsey Twins. Did you ever hear about that?
I've heard of, yeah.
Yeah, I read the Bobbsey Twins and the Boxcar Kids.
Boxcar Kids.
Yeah.
Yes, Magic Tree House for me.
Magic
it's probably
Tree
where
House.
fantasies are going.
And then, but when I started to get older, I read Sweet Valley High. There's a whole series of it. It's just like all these girls in high school, and they were twins. Oh my God, it was so good. Anyway, we're so off the mark. So anyway, point is, we love books, and this book made me think of other books, which is fun. And so this was my first introduction to Colleen Hoover.
Same.
Because what had happened was, I'm always on Goodreads, or I go to different like chats and Facebook or whatever, what people are recommending. And for a while, I think it was last year, everyone was like, Colleen Hoover, Colleen. It was like all these different books. And I was like, oh my God, like people love this Colleen Hoover. And so I randomly picked Verity.
It's probably a good
And
thing.
then I read like what it's about. I'm like, ooh, that sounds creepy, up my alley. And I read it. I wouldn't say it's my favorite book ever, but I was like, okay. And even though it disturbed me, I was thinking, I'm going to give her another try. I'm going to pick another book. Everybody says this book is great. So I buy it, and it ends with us. And I'm sorry, guys, I hated it.
This is just like a one-off for her.
I had no idea. And then once I finished It Ends With Us, because then I know it's like there's another one that's another, like it starts with us or it begins with us. I don't know. And I was like, I looked into that, and then I looked into the titles of the other books. I'm like, I think they're all like this.
I think I went Verity, and then I want to say it was Ugly Love.
Okay.
For me was the next one, and I was kind of like,
I didn't like it. It seemed very unrealistic to me in terms of like the ages of the people and the way they were handling like domestic abuse. I mean,
it seems like some authors, for example, I want to say Lisa Jewell, she didn't always write like thrillers and things like that, but like she took that turn and stayed with that turn, and it's worked out really well. Whereas this is just like, what did you do to come up with this?
Yeah.
But then you didn't pursue anything else like this.
Yeah.
Like, was this just a one-off, like you did some drugs and had like this vision? I don't know. Was this a dream? And
it was a fever dream.
Yeah, it feels so interesting that this had so much success and she has not pursued anything else of this nature. And I get it. Yeah. If you are on top, you've done one, and it's not your forte and you don't want to fail, that's fine, Colleen Hoover. That's perfectly fine. But I do believe she did stop writing for a while.
If she were to do another one like this, I would be tempted. I would read it. I would check it out for sure. But the other stuff, it's not for me, which is surprising that I'm going to try this. But so far, this doesn't seem unrealistic the way her tropes have been. And so I'm sorry, Colleen Hoover fans. It's not for me. Which is funny because at the bookstore, we were talking about this. And the girl Stephanie was basically saying she did the opposite. Like she had read some of the regular novels. And they're okay. She just likes to read. Yeah. And when she got Verity, she was like, ugh. She hated it. She didn't like it, which is funny because she loves the fantasy stuff, but I guess the crime stuff. It's funny. Some people are like, they love the fantasy and the drama of that, but they don't like the crime and the psychological. I love it all, to be honest. I just don't like it when it's so far off. I just don't like it when it makes me roll my eyes and I go, oh my God, I want to slap this person. Yeah. Like, why are you wasting my time? But, so how do we wrap this up?
Moving forward.
Yeah.
After this, we decided we aren't done with ACOTAR.
No.
So we're going to do an ACOTAR, I don't know, theories/questions podcast because I like to do the deep dive on TikTok. So I've put together a bunch of TikTok theories that people have, and I'm curious like what you think. Obviously, I know what I think about them and stuff like that. But just in preparation for book 6, see where we go with that.
Yeah.
And then I think ACOTAR will be dead until book 6. Sorry.
Well, maybe not, because so I wrote down all the questions and ideas that I had in my head. There were a lot. I know. And like once I started doing it, I was doing it before school started, and it got to the point where the bell rang. I was like, God damn it. Like I wanted to keep thinking about this. And so I wrote all these questions down, and then I checked later and I saw that you added the TikTok ones. And then so on my lunch, I just got on TikTok and I started looking at them. And then I cannot tell you the joy I had that some people were saying the same things that I was thinking.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, maybe I'm right.
And I will say with the ACOTAR theories, we're keeping strict to solely on ACOTAR because there's the intertwined theories.
And that's when I saw it. I was like, oh my God, I don't have time. Like, I want to be able, I wish I could read like 8 books at once.
Yeah.
Because then it was like spoilers. Like, oh, I can't read that. I can't look at that theory because, it ties.
And there were some that I was reading that linked to Throne of Glass, and I was like, what?
I know. I think my mom got Throne of Glass, the first book, and she said she started it, and she's like, I'm not sure how I like this because she doesn't read a lot of fantasy.
Yeah.
I was like, you got it already? I don't have it yet. So now I'm like scrambling because I want to finish this, but I know Iron Flame is on its way. It should be coming across the pond any day now.
They're pretty quick.
Like as soon as that comes, but I have nothing on my tracking info yet. But as soon as that comes, I want to start reading it.
Yeah.
But now I also want to do Throne of Glass. I'm all over the place, you guys.
I know. And I will say, like, with Throne of Glass, there are some times where I might have thrown in, like, a tiny little mystery that you could consume in, like, a 2-day span or weekend or whatever. But, like, Throne of Glass, I would not intertwine another fantasy world with it. Like,
not another fantasy world.
Yeah, you want to make sure, like, and then maybe that's just me with fantasy, too, but, like, Throne of Glass is so much more complex than the ACOTAR world that I think you just have to be like, and there's so many characters.
And I'm very nervous about that one because I think, because there's so many more books, I think she finally starts breaking hearts of the readers with certain characters. And so I'm nervous about that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I was talking to this girl, Madeline, she was saying, and it's just, I feel like we all feel this way, like when you end a series, you have like that feeling of sadness of like, I miss my people.
It was a hangover. Like Throne of Glass gives you that like hangover where you're just like, okay, now what?
I mean, because that's kind of how I'm feeling with ACOTAR. Like, I read them all one after another. I mean, I did have a couple in between, but I'm just like, well, what's going on with Nesta? Like, what's happening? Like, I want to know. And so, I think that's a sign of a good book when you love the people in it and you need to know more. So we'll be doing an episode on the theories, but we also have other books coming. I know we read The Quiet Tenant, The Last House Guest. That's on there. There's a couple others. I can't even think about it right now.
We'll get to Fourth Wing.
Fourth Wing, and then of course the others that come after. But please, someone out there in the universe, comment. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. If you want us to shut up faster, give us some. She's like, no, I'm going to keep talking. Give us your opinions, your theories, your, what you hate, what you love about these books, recommendations. Just a little back and forth is what I want. Well, maybe we can read something that somebody sends us. I would love that. We can read it out there for the world to hear. So just, share and keep reading.
Let us know.
Okay, I think that's it. Bye.